All right, welcome back, everybody. Yesterday, President Jacob Zuma met with ANC National Congress veterans who have called for him to step down. He was accompanied by the rest of the ANC's top six. In recent days, the veterans have expressed concern over a variety of issues, including the ANC's loss of support at this year's polls, developments at the South African Revenue Service, that's Sars, and the National Treasury, and perceived lack of leadership as well. To update us on the outcomes of the meeting, we're joined in studio by the ANC's Deputy General Secretary, Duarte. So lovely. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you very much.
How would you summarise the President's meeting with the veterans yesterday?
I think this meeting was probably one of the best things that has happened to the ANC in a long time, because it consolidated the values of the ANC in one space, where people were able to speak very openly about their concerns. We haven't had an opportunity to engage very deeply. There wasn't enough time, and we've agreed to continue with the discussion. But the entire NWC of the ANC was present, as well as about 45 veterans, of stalwarts and veterans of the ANC. Primarily, the discussion verged on the fact that the veterans felt that there need to be a strengthening of the ANC, and that the values of the ANC need to be re-inculcated. There was disappointment about the leadership's lack of implementing decisions of the National General Council, looking at questions of, obviously the top of mind issue for them is this broad perspective of an ANC that is a corrupt ANC, and also that they feel they can make a contribution, and they would want to make a contribution. I was very impressed with the call they made in the meeting, where they said that a number of people want to come back to the ANC, and they were working on bringing people back home. Now, we've been saying this for a very long time, and I suppose people for their own reasons have held back. But this is positive. And I think the thing for me personally that was very positive was the assertion that we all understood that we were analyzing the situation absolutely in the same way. We didn't, they presented a document. We found very little in that document that we would not agree with, except for one matter, which is the calling of a consultative conference, which they will run, and so that's for further discussion. We felt that we could not suspend the constitution of the ANC, and it's not a point of aggressive difference. It's a small different matter. I don't think that it is really a breaking point, nor was this a negotiation. It was a conversation amongst comrades who know each other for a very, very long time and have deep respect for each other.
Yeah, certainly, and that's why I think it was exceptionally worrying seeing the caliber of veterans coming together and all expressing their dismay in the organization and the movement. I mean, when you see Dennis Goldberg, you see Andrew Mlangeni, you see Frank Chikane, you see so many of these stalwarts, and I'm just mentioning three of them, and I think the three of them were present. What about these calls for President Zuma to step down?
Yesterday, that call didn't come through. It's not even on the paper that they presented to us. I think they were raising the broad objectives of the values of the ANC. So, you know, it didn't happen yesterday. In our discussions, they didn't make that call. But, you know, if they make that call, it's their right to do so. We will have a further discussion. The President was very clear that we must, all of us, sit down and talk with very open hearts. And so that's why we thought we needed another session with more time. There were only about 7 veterans who actually stood up and made points. And we thought perhaps more would want to say perhaps different things. They didn't all agree with each other on every matter either. And that's really the ANC, you know, it's a broad church. But primarily, I think what we heard was we can't allow the organization to die in our hands, which is also the view we have, and that's why we've been going out to the provinces, talking again and again to our regional structures and our provinces, ensuring that we regenerate the energy of the ANC, and we understand why some of our people stayed away from polls. Partially the problem was that people didn't work hard enough. That's a fact.
Yeah.
But I think in PE and in Tshwane, the infighting that was really quite unacceptably high amongst the ANC members, that was the major cause of a dampening of our voter share, including, of course, the negative press around our president. We can't deny any of those things. But having said all that, the ability of the ANC to strengthen itself is there, and the ability of the ANC to be what people call brutally honest is also there, and that happened yesterday.
Yeah.
There were hard things that were said.
I'm sure there were, which made you do a lot of soul searching, which is very, very important. And the issue of corruption, I think, is at the center of everything. And I think, as much as we may say that people didn't work enough in the run-up to the elections, I think South Africans were scared in these elections, and seeing the negative reports coming through, the state of capture report, what's happening at Sars, what's happening just at the root of every institution that we have falling apart. Now, this is the reality. How do we turn them around?
You know, Leanne, my own, maybe a bit subjective view, is that when things are exposed, that's not when they're falling apart. It's when they're not exposed that they fall apart silently, you know. So whatever happened at SARS, thank goodness, it's out in the open. It's being dealt with. People are being questioned about it. As long as we don't forsake justice in our country for perception, that's the one element that we must all guard against, is that there must always be a judicious way in which we ensure that everybody's rights are upheld. You know, that's the cornerstone of our democracy, is we fought for that. You know, we were always accused wrongly without having an opportunity to go to any court of law. Now we have that.
Yeah.
What is very positive is that wherever there is corruption, let it surface. But let it surface factually, and make sure that everybody who is accused is given an opportunity to defend themselves adequately, and everybody who is accusing people, make sure that you who are accusing do so only with fact, not with any other intention. That sounds very simplistic, but that in the end is what's going to take us out of this cycle of a perception of our country as being totally corrupt. For instance, I saw in Northern Cape yesterday, the Premier sacked four officials. I'm very proud of her for doing that. It's an investigation that has taken place. She comes out and she says, wait, I'm not dealing with this in this way. I'm sacking you right now, here and now. And I think that more and more of that is going to happen. And I think for as long as corruption is a silent partner in our lives, we won't come right.
Yeah. Well, that's the truth. We'll have to leave it on. The follow-up meeting, this consultative meeting?
We're waiting for the veterans to give us a response. We've made a suggestion. They said they'd like to confer, and they'll come back to us within a day or two.
We'll leave it there. ANC Deputy General Secretary J.C. Duarte, thank you for talking to us here on the program.
Thank you.
All right, let's quickly pop into Palesa, who's